Hey, welcome to Captive Audience, the April 12th edition. And I'll tell you, it's a beautiful day out there, although I heard a little bit of sprinkles right now. I think those are just a few little passing clouds. But it's beautiful spring and the flowers are everywhere. The dogwoods are blooming and coming on blooms. It's a nice day, and spring is a enjoyable and very enjoyable season. Well, I'll tell you, we've got a lot of news if you've been paying attention to anything at all. But I ran across a few things so PGE here in Oregon. I'm going to do a little bit of Oregon news first, and the story that came across in Oregon Catalyst is about PGE is wanting another rate hike. And this rate hike of only 7.4% would actually end up being a 40% rate hike sent over the 2022 rates. So they've been increasing every year. Now, this would be in 2025. Okay, we're only in April of 2024. But they're asking now. And, I'll tell you, they are saying because people are buying electric vehicles and heat pumps, and heat pumps are causing the electricity consumption. Well, they are saying that they're saying they've got to upgrade the system, right? They want to spend $2.3 billion on transmission and distribution improvements over 4 years. Well, I know that we do have the Boardman to Hemingway transmission line over here in Northeast Oregon. And that's from Boardman, Oregon to Hemingway, Idaho. And it is not to bring electricity over here, it's to take our electricity out of Oregon, actually, and distribute it to other areas. Unfortunately, many people aren't aware of that. But they are saying the people who can afford the luxuries of electric vehicles are the higher income Oregonians. And so the costs are going up, right? I mean, if you've from 2022 to sometime in 2025, if this increase gets approved, your electric rates going up 40%, that's a dang lot of money. And so hi, Nicholas, who is, one of the people that is a person, I should say, that is getting money for that is the CEO, who is getting paid $6.9 million. And the investors, of course. And so you kind of have to call into question the investors' return on their investment as the residential rates are being higher, of course, than for commercial and industrial customers. I think that is the norm because commercial and industrial customers consume a lot more. And when you consume a lot more of something, typically the costs are down. And but if you are not happy with this, you can comment about this, because they're going to have an open comment period, I'm sure. It's not mentioned in this article at all, but the utilities officials say they need to reduce wildfire risks as well as carbon emissions by investing in green energy, solar panels, wind farms, electric vehicles, and heat pumps. Well, electric vehicles and heat pumps are not green energy. Heat pumps might be green energy compliant, that conservation, but electric vehicles, far from it. So that part did not actually make sense to me in this article. So I don't know. Yeah, so there is a shortage coming. I'm reading Pam, I'm reading what you're saying, about Lars Larson says there's a shortage coming. Well, it's been a couple of years ago that Governor Kate Brown was on television and said, "Hey, get ready for shortages. Get ready for blackouts." We're to keep telling everybody be prepared for an emergency. But the thing is it's not an emergency. That's going to end up being a way of life here in Oregon of having power outages and power getting cut. When we have high heat, they go, "Oh no, it might start a fire, so we're going to cut your power." And server farms are going up exactly. And the server farms, they are consuming hydroelectric power, which is the cheapest power there is in the United States, to my knowledge. For sure, Oregon. That's the cheapest power there is in Oregon. And and they're high consumers. They need a lot of electricity and they need water to cool their systems. And the largest sector of jobs that they create is security. They create security jobs because it doesn't take very many people, apparently, to keep a server place up and running. One of these, I won't call it a farm because farms are something that grow things that you're going to eat, right? And we live in a farming community. Wind farms are nothing but industrial wind turbines, industrial wind centers. They should be on industrial and commercial land, not on farmland. And I think they've coined that kind of like almond milk. Well, you don't ever get milk from almonds. You get almond juice. But I digress. So going down another road there. But you have to pay attention to all of this, and the costs are going up, like it or not. And having a generator, being self-sufficient, is the best thing to do. Trying to fortify your home, whatever it is, to being more self-sufficient is the best thing to do. But they are not farms at all. Hey, I wanted to bring your attention to something else. We have here in Oregon, excuse me, we pay the most for education, and we have the worst education in the state of Oregon. And there's recently was strikes over in Salem. The teachers were striking and whatnot for higher pay. Well, they got their higher pay, but now, and I just posted a story there that this in from OPB, that because of the higher pay that they were getting, that's me saying that, they now have to cut $40 million out of in reductions. They have to cut it. So Salem Kaiser is going to cut a lot of educators, like hundreds. And that's combined with the cuts announced in December. It's the biggest reduction Salem Kaiser had seen in over a decade. And they're saying they need to cut a lot of jobs. There's about 100 jobs, though, that actually are vacant. So that's kind of a good deal. 100 of the proposed cuts are currently vacant positions. And there's going to be about 800 positions that they're going to be shifting around. And there's going to be maybe 1,200 people may change or lose their job in the school system. But I'll tell you what they didn't cut, and that was management, which of course make the most money, right? Administration and that. They didn't cut any of that. And so there are throughout Oregon, school districts are starting to falter financially, and it's much more than a blip. They're having financial, substantial cuts and constraints, and then you have illegals coming into our state that is also adding more students to the system, and it's it's not a good thing, you know. So yes, they've got higher pay, and now they're going to lose their job, maybe, right? It's just not good. So 90% of the general fund is spent on people, and almost all of them are in schools. So there's no way to make a cut this large and not touch the most precious part of the organization, which is the classroom. And that is what Castaneda, who said, who is, you know, from the Portland, the Salem Kaiser School District there. Anyway, just wanted you to know about that. And Thursday's announcement comes the same week the teachers union and the district ratified their latest bargaining contract after narrowly avoiding a strike. And so they're going to be, and they actually got from that, their contract, the Salem Kaiser Education Association contract, will cost about $42.5 million in increases over the next 2 years. This, in part, pays for the 9.75% increase in compensation. You can read raise, one-time bonus payments, and other employee benefits, such as larger health insurance contributions. And expiring federal relief dollars will foot the bill for some of this. Did you hear that? Expiring federal relief dollars. So when they lose money, they have to cut then. So it's not good, because it's the students who lose. It's the students who lose. And the students in Oregon have been losing for a long time. And so this comment is very interesting from Pam. Thank you. The illegals had small classes with bilingual assistants, while the English speaking and more than likely citizens have huge classes and are not getting the attention that they need for those. So thank you for that. You know, it's important to pay attention to what's going on. It definitely is. Something else that's going on in Oregon, if you haven't been noticed at all or been onto the Secretary of State's website that has to do with the election, it has been crashing. So here we are. We're getting ready to have an election. May 21st is election day. They have the primary here in the state of Oregon. And for weeks, they have been encountering crashed pages on the Oregon Secretary of State election website. And it's a site that I frequent often, not daily, but often. I could say at least twice a week, sometimes more. And so on this article from the Oregon Catalyst, it says, can't reach this page. And, you know, they're saying that they're doing work. And the Secretary of State said they needed more funding just 2 weeks ago. And that's in addition to the $10 million in new funding awarded by the 2024 February legislative session. So I hope the Secretary of State gets what they need, but more importantly, the website needs to work, and even more importantly, the election system. It definitely needs to work. And so they've been having, they hope in this article, they hope the Secretary of State does not become another bureaucratic casualty like they've seen with the human resources with their Cover Oregon crash, the unemployment or the employment department job benefit system crash, housing department computer crash, DMV computer crash, and actually they lost all their data, right? They got more than crashed. They got like all the data stolen. And we also know that where you get your unemployment checks, I mean, they've been having huge problems. That's that unemployment department. So it's not good. It's not looking good. And, that doesn't give a lot of give you a lot of confidence. That certainly doesn't give us confidence in the systems in the state of Oregon, that we have some of the highest taxes in the nation. We pay the most for education in the nation, and we're getting the least in service, the absolute least in service. So talking about elections, this story that I ran across in Just the News is liberal dark money. Well, let me first say this. We have talked about ranked choice voting on Captive Audience, and we're going to be doing a lot more talking about it because this is an issue that's going to be on the ballot in November. And so part of this is to bring awareness, bring education, and to know what it is. So don't be surprised when it's on the ballot in November. And this is not just in Oregon, it's a huge push across the United States. And so in this story from Just the News, liberal dark money pushes ranked choice voting as campaign gains momentum across the United States. And ranked choice voting by nature creates a power vacuum, with liberal donors seeking to create in order to supplement party infrastructure. These same donors decry the use of super PACs when they benefit conservatives. Well, and we've just had a campaign donation reform here in Oregon, legislation that was recently signed. And so ranked choice voting, you know what? You can, RCV, as it's also called, it is, it's nothing that we want here in Oregon. So the groups that want to replace the influence of political parties with their own, they want it, it's according to Honest Election Project Action, HEPA, and Election Integrity Advocate. And they're saying that the liberal dark money groups are funding RCV campaigns across the country through local organizations, resulting in the push for an election system that would dilute the power of political parties and allow mega donors to fill in. So, it was just 2 years ago, right before when we were going to have the primary, that the then chair of the Oregon Republican Party said, let's open our primaries up, and let's let everybody vote. Actually, that's not what he said, but that's what I felt like he said. He had actually said to let the NAVs and the independents vote in our primary. Well, a closed primary is a good thing. It is to where a party, I don't care, Republican Party, Democrat Party, Independent Party, they get to choose who they would like to move forward as a candidate. I like our closed primary, and I think that's the way that it should continue, because then in the general election, whoever has moved forward of the different parties, those are your choices, which is why it's important that the party picks the candidate. Yes, that was Dallas Hurd. Great intentions. I don't know about that. And so, but it's important that the party picks who their nominee is. Then in the general election, anybody can vote for anybody. It's open, but ranked choice voting will undo all of that. And you can just look into Alaska and how that has worked there. It's predominantly where it is, Democrats keep getting elected, and the person with the least votes ends up winning. So you're not, if one candidate does not reach 50% plus one vote, then the candidate with the least amount of first choice votes is eliminated. And it takes a computer to figure this out. And I can tell you, Oregon is upgrading their computer elections and programming to be prepared to take this, in case it passes. And I think that they're thinking it will pass. And we as conservatives, we as voters, it's not a partisan issue, but we as voters need to help educate our family, friends, and neighbors that this is nothing that we want. Absolutely nothing that we want. So, along with that, something else I wanted to bring attention to is Maine, the state of Maine, they have okayed the Democrat-led effort to ditch the Electoral College. Well, we don't want to do that. You think that might be a good idea? You do not want to do that. So there is a reason why the Democrats are really pushing for ranked choice voting, getting rid of the Electoral College, and it's not to help Republicans, that's for sure. It is to help ensure that they will win, no matter what, at any cost. Now, Speaker Mike Johnson and Donald Trump had announced an election integrity bill to require proof of citizenship to vote. And that is a good thing. Everybody that is voting in our nation should be a citizen of the United States, especially to vote in federal elections. That's actually constitutional, which was just upheld today in Georgia. Georgia, a judge in Georgia upholds the voter citizenship verification requirement. And that's as it should be. Unfortunately, here in Oregon, we don't have that. And it's something that should be changed if we can. The thing about elections is it shouldn't be partisan at all. We should all want free and fair elections, but that's just not the case. It's not the case at all. And why can't the ballots be registered to only registered voters? Well, that would be interesting. And so people are registered, but they're active or inactive. So you could have, yes, a person is registered to vote in the state of Oregon, but you're inactive. Okay. And so you have to be active status in order to get a ballot. Anyway, so I wanted to bring that up to you, is to be aware that Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson are working on this. I think that's a good thing. I would hope that they could get this across the finish line all the way. And I was really happy to read about Georgia and the judge upholding a lawsuit and saying, yeah, it's actually lawful for you to require citizenship verification in order to vote in a state. Now, we got some other good news today on from Speaker Mike Johnson, and he rolled out a slate of endorsements in key races today. And one of them is right here in Oregon, and that is Monique Despain to topple Val Hoyle. And that is, we need to do everything we can to retire Val Hoyle and get Monique Despain. I'm posting her website right here. And because, candidates need money, they need help. If you're living in the district that she is, running for, she's running for Congress, and it is, I would say, you need to help her. You could put a sign out, or whatnot. And it's for the 4th Congressional District. And if we pick that up, that would be awesome. It would be another seat in the House for us. So I was happy to hear about Mike Johnson is rolling out some, of course, some for incumbents, Republican incumbents, which would be normal. But here he is, tapping Monique Despain to get rid of Val Hoyle, and that would just be awesome. So if you can help her out, please sign up for her campaign, and let's give her a boost. If you can't financially, put a sign out or host an event for her, host a fundraiser, anything to help, because, even if you're not in her district, anything that we can do across the state to help her is helping everybody. It helps everybody. Now, we do have a little bit of what I deem bad news, and that was the House passed the FISA extension, but it's not prepared yet to go to the Senate. And they've added some things in there. They unfortunately did not get the warrant as yet. I'm prayerful that they would, but frankly, I would like to see FISA killed. But they did get it is only for 2 years. And I heard President Trump, I was actually able to watch their press release, and with Speaker Johnson and Trump, and Trump would rather see it gone as well. In fact, I was reading an article before coming on. I don't have it here to reference it, but it's something like in 2021, it was almost 300,000 people were surveilled by FISA without warrants in the United States. And I think they should have a warrant. I don't think we should have FISA, a secret court. I don't think against the citizens of the United States. No, it's frankly against our Constitution, and I think it should be banned. But that's my opinion. So unfortunately, the House passed FISA today, and we'll see what happens. They passed the extension to 2026. And that was something that Trump thought was a good deal. Hey, if we're going to pass it, okay, let's at least, as I remember a legislator, he would talk to me. He goes, okay, we're going to put some sidebars on it. So I'm going to say that got a little bit of sidebars. Instead of being 5 years, it's knocked down to 2, but it doesn't mean the Senate will pass it. And it's not even ready to go to the Senate, as I understand it, yet. So we'll see what happens with that. Something that the Senate did do well today is the Senate passed a resolution nullifying Biden's greenhouse gas emission rule. I bet you never heard anything about that. And the greenhouse gas emissions rules, this is from the Epoch Times, would force transportation departments to measure their transportation-related emissions and set reduction targets. So while the world is crumbling, at least the Senate passes a resolution nullifying Biden's greenhouse gas emission rules, because it would actually, they're saying multiple states have sued over it, because arguing that it would dampen job creation, eliminate future economic development, saddle states with costly regulations like we don't have enough already, and is ultimately an overreach from the executive branch. Hello, do you think? So initially, it was introduced by a Republican from North Dakota, Kevin Cramer, and a Republican, Shelley Capito from West Virginia, and Joe Manchin, Democrat, West Virginia. And so the resolution passed the Senate 53-47. And that was on April 10th. So I'll tell you, that's a good thing. It is a good thing. Anytime we can kind of curb the government down, I think it's a good deal. There has been we're in a fight for free speech. I don't know if you've seen what's gone on with Twitter, or X, now X, Elon Musk and Brazil, and Catherine Herridge, and Cheryl Atkinson before Congress, and talking about the free press and what's happening with them. But it's the investigations that are going on are really good. And this is why we have to keep the House, and this is why elections matter. This is why we want to pick up another seat, like to get Monique Despain elected, um, because the investigations that are uncovering what's wrong in our government and the bureaucracy of our government is a good thing. Bringing things to light uh, that's exposing the truths to the people, which is helping to flip the narrative in our nation. And and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of investigations to do that. And I think it's a good thing. Yes, I would like to see people prosecuted for these crimes. I mean, it's definitely, I would like to see people prosecuted and losing their jobs instead of just investigation after investigation. But they do have merit, and there is a lot gained by these investigations. And so I'm kudos to everybody who's fighting for our freedom of speech. And because it needs to be, this is our First Amendment right in our country. And it's absolutely trying to be, the legacy media is a propaganda machine, and we have to look around for alternatives out there, alternative information, and to see really what's going on. So if you've not heard about the free speech fight happening in Congress, it's a big deal. To me, it's a big deal. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. There is the Biden administration is screaming about, oh no, Trump's got all the lawsuits and whatnot. Well, there's an audit, and the Democrat National Committees has paid Biden's legal fees to the tune of $1.5 million after the Biden administration accused the RNC of paying Trump fees. So, it's just what happens. And the New York Post looked up the Federal Election Commission records, and that's all. That's all. You don't need a FOIA for that. That's all public information. And they revealed that the DNC paid President Biden's legal expenses, like I said, more than $1.5 million during a probe into his mishandling of the classified documents. And, now that's a prosecution that actually should happen, since he was not president anytime he had the documents, and his storage of them. He was a senator and he was vice president, but it does not give him the right to have classified documents, and especially all the movement around, all of the many locations. And we know that this is a lawfare. It is targeting Trump, um, trying to dissuade voters to support him. And I do think that it's been amazing watching that the more they target him, the stronger he gets as a candidate. More and more people are waking up to the fact of what is going on, the two-tier justice system in our society today in America. And so, I don't know if y'all saw, but he was in Georgia in a Chick-fil-A, and a woman who I believe worked there, was talking to him and saying, hey, you know what? Don't listen to the media. We're all voting for you. And he says, oh, come over here and give me a hug. It was so refreshing to see, because he resonates with people. He resonates with young people. And, so the more they target him, the more people are going, oh yeah, we see what's happening, and the legacy media is not necessarily telling the truth. Hey, something else I wanted to talk about was, let's see, wait a minute. Education. Education. I ran into this story from the Post Millennial, and it says 2 out of 3 US colleges require DEI related classes for graduation. 2 out of 3 US colleges require DEI related classes for graduation. And that should be a huge wake up call. You're thinking, well, they can just go to college somewhere. They don't have to, um, they can maybe avoid all of that. No, it's a required class. Now, this is even in public schools. This is not just private schools. So I just posted the story there. And it is must take at least one course related to DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, in order to graduate. So it's also some of them are public, and so it's 59% were public institutions and 41% were private. Of the 248 universities and colleges chosen by Speech First to look into this study, 165 had a graduation requirement that included a course dealing with themes of DEI. And while some universities mandated courses that were blatantly forcing far left ideology upon students, for others, the push to study certain ideas was more subtle. And, so it's just something to be aware of. And if anything, we should stop that type of indoctrination of our money, our public monies going to public schools, right? Our tax dollars going to public schools. And then I found this story on OAN that you remember Ketanji Brown when she was going to get on the Supreme Court, and she's in her hearing for that. And she as a woman could not define a woman. She said, I'm not a biologist. I can't do that. Well, the Education Secretary, Miguel Cardona, refuses to say whether there's physical differences between men and women. And as I read this, my first thought is, oh, brother, right? Well, my second thought, I still say, oh, brother, but my second thought is, how do you like the fact that this man, who's the Education Secretary of the United States, is afraid? He's afraid to say if there's physical differences. That's actually more of the truth. He's afraid. He's afraid to get counseled. He's afraid of the attacks that might happen. He's afraid of the repercussions of losing his job. So he doesn't have the cojones to stand up and speak the truth. And, so in this picture, he actually looks defeated. In this, there was a budget hearing yesterday held by the House Appropriations Committee, one of those, type of hearings. And he declined to address the question of whether men and women differ physically. And so here you are, a defeated person who is afraid to speak the truth. But not everybody is afraid. According to the Daily Caller, during the hearing, Representative Andy Harris, a Republican from Maryland, asked Cardona about the significance of Title IX before moving on to ask him about the physical distinction between men and women. And Title IX is a federal civil rights law that shields people from sexual discrimination in educational programs and activities that are funded by the federal government. And thankfully, recently, it was I don't remember all the acronym. It's like a NIAIAH, organization, but it's basically collegiate sports said, you know what, we're banning all biological men from women's sports. And I think, thankfully, that's happened because it does discriminate against for scholarships. And Riley, I can't think of her first name. Riley, she has been such a mouthpiece and a voice about the equality of Title IX in sports and women standing up for women's rights. And so I thought, there you are, here with education. So he was asked, would you agree that Title IX was necessary to help establish women's sports because women can't fairly be expected to compete on biological male teams? And Cardona tried to sidestep the topic at first, but after Harris urged him not to filibuster, he acknowledged the significance of Title IX. Subsequently, Harris inquired if Cardona would concur that women and men are physically different. And Cardona says, I see where you're going with this. He began before being interrupted after Harris asked the question. Again, Cardona added that he would love to talk about how we can work together to support the students. But no, I am not, as the education secretary, I am not going to support women in their sports, women only, biological women. So I think, it is the truth is coming out. And Riley Gaines, thank you very much. Thank you, Nicholas. The truth is coming out. And so these types of things is where we get to have that exposure. And then it comes out in the news all over. And this should, eyes are, you said it, Lori, eyes are opening. And that's why we need these investigations or these hearings and whatnot, and ask the question. So truth telling for sure. Hey, I have a couple of funny stories. I say funny, haha, not funny really. But a man claiming to be a woman was arrested at Planet Fitness after going into the women's locker room completely naked. Now, why I'm bringing this up is because, so this is on OAN, is because there is, not to promote Planet Fitness. No, they had to do that because remember the woman who had taken a picture of a man shaving, a man that claimed to be a woman shaving in the women's locker room, and they revoked that woman's membership in Planet Fitness? Well, here we are several months later, and now they have actually arrested a man who claimed to be a female in Planet Fitness going in the locker room. Well, the guy shaving could have been completely naked, but I don't think that Planet Fitness was going to do it. And I do know that Planet Fitness has lost a lot of value. This happened to be in North Carolina is where this happened. And he was arrested for indecent exposure and then booked into the Caston County Jail yesterday. So it's funny how the tides turn, and some of them very quickly. Very quickly. I think Planet Fitness is going to recover? I have no idea. But the go woke and go broke is alive and well, and that's a good thing. So another story was, we've through the whole COVID everything, right? Well, we had to, they were promoting so much hand sanitizer. Sanitize your hands, sanitize everything, sanitize it all. They wanted you to spray sanitizer all over your house and whatnot. Well, the FDA recalls hand sanitizer with menthol because it is linked to blindness and comas. And so it's a recall of several lots of aloe gel and hand sanitizer due to the presence of menthol, which apparently poses a major risk to consumers' health. I thought menthol, you got Vicks mentholatum rub, you put it on your chest if you had a cold, right? I don't know. I didn't know menthol was bad for you, but apparently this is. And it's Aruba aloe hand sanitizer gel, alcohol 80%, and Aruba aloe alcoholata gel has been recalled since they reportedly contain alcohol denatured with methanol. So maybe I read that wrong. It was, methanol, not menthol. I did read that wrong. Methanol, hand sanitizer with methanol. No, no, no. You don't want that. So their recipe was not working, apparently. Well, that's about all I got for you. That's all I have. I wish everybody to share the message. And thanks for watching tonight. And have a super weekend. Get outside, enjoy the fresh air, enjoy the springtime that we are having. And as Dawn says, look out the window. Is everything, all the bad news that you're seeing in the news, is it in your community? It's not everywhere, but there is a lot of fear porn out there, and we have to look at that with discernment. Yes, go garden. Go garden. There you go. Check your hand sanitizer, Pat. But seriously though, because of Biden's ineptness, things are heating up in the world. So keep an eye out, have situational awareness. We have people in our country that do not care for us and that would like to take us down. So stay safe, be with your family, and we'll see you next